Announcements. Our monthly all-day sit at Open Sky is January 18th. All of these things are on the Everyday Zen website.
The Dharma Heart Center.
What did I say?
Every day.
Zen.
Okay.
I am.
Same thing.
Heck, there too. They have lots of good things. We're having a Dharma Heart Zen Sangha meeting February 8th in my home, 10 to 2. There's somebody out there. Hi. Love you, great. Find a seat. Doan, if you're interested in Doan Rio practice, Constance is the person, January 10th. If you're interested in tech, Jared is your person, talk to him. But again, the links and everything are also on the Dharma Heart Zen website. There's also, just because I care, there's an interfaith monthly vigil, and the next one is January 28th. So we haven't seen each other for a while. Well, some of us. So here's a little introduction, because people were asking. So I and some of you were down at Tassajara in the Ventana Wilderness doing 6 days for the Tassajara Wildland Firefighters Retreat. It's the 5th year. It came to be because Tassajara has almost burned down numerous times. And like many things that it's dry, it's hot, the climate's changing. And firefighters are like our very own Sue Hasari, who is in a little box on the screen, came and saved it. It's there because of the wildland firefighters and Zen students who got trained in firefighting. And then some of the firefighters who also happened to be practitioners, and some who weren't, said it would be cool to bring wildland firefighters down and give them some tools down here, because they're carrying a big load for all of us. And then we found out that some of the wildland firefighters who had been down fighting fires in the valley said, there's something about this place. What's going on here? So they felt it, we felt it, there was a mutuality to it. We made it happen. It was sweet this year because there were a number of Dharma Heart Zen people down in the dish room. Every time you take your dirty dish there now, yellow gloves and we smile. Real bodhisattva is just helping everybody wash their dishes, it's like, and then you go in the kitchen and there's people in there cooking, like Ellen, who's on the screen. I think I saw her. What a really, the food was. I'm really sorry you missed it, because they went beyond themselves. I could tell you about nut loaf and gingerbread with whipped cream, and somebody name out one more. Amazing. What was it? Ramen on New Year's Eve, and blueberry pancakes on New Year's Day, and anyway, it's kind of Zen is. It doesn't say in what is Zen, but I'll just confess that Zen is a food cult. So, and it works. And then Sue and others out cutting wood and doing burn piles, and I don't think I ever saw. I've tried to split wood. Have you ever tried to split wood? It's like Zen and the art of archery. Really, to really split wood is just an amazing. Anyway, I was deeply impressed. So we did a lot of work, and some trees were down, and people just grabbed their little chainsaws. Emma, who comes sometimes, and others they just know what they're doing. They just go in and they cut it up and they stack it. And I mean, it really is like chop wood, carry water. Hey. We were enacting it. And it seems to me that there is more trauma showing up just because there are more fires and they're hotter and destructive. So, you know, these really are, I consider them frontline climate change bodhisattvas. It's nice to assist. And moving into our theme of what is Zen and how do we live it. No, it's an interesting question when you bring firefighters from all over the country. Oh, and we try really hard to like people who've just been it for 2 years and they're young, and people who are 30 years, and people who are retired, and so they all cross fertilize each other. Is so how much do they really want to know about Buddhism and Zen? I mean, it's always like with the family program, and I mean, anytime you and even here, it's like, I mean, why are you here? What do you really want to know? Well, let me tell you. Sometimes we do deep dives, and we do Dogen, and we do sutras, and sometimes we do this and that, and I think fundamentally, because we take people into the Zendo and we show them some forms and keep saying you're not bowing to something outside of yourself and it's really okay, and you know, all of those things that people might be concerned about. I think more than anything, the way anything is transmitted is in the living of it and by what people experience, how they experience you. So I thought, hi Valerie. So I you don't need to know this, but I'll say it. Is people said, because the word is out that you go down and because firefighters, like many first responders, like suck it up. That's the professional thing is, yeah, well, somebody died. Yeah, well, like just suck it up and do the next thing, which when you're in the emergency, you need to just do that. But then what do you do with it? So that's what we offer, and the place of deepening community. So it's really brave for people to come down into this weird vegetarian valley for 6 days. And what many of them said to me was, we didn't know we would laugh so much. Then they said, I'm just telling you this because I'm proud. I'll get over it. They said, you're funny. It used to be funny. I have to think I'm funny. But anyway, it was, and how close tears and laughter are. They're so close. You know, once you start becoming vulnerable and tender, it's just, it's all just right here. It's alive. So what is Zen and how do we live it? What is alive and how do we live it? So we're going to spend January and I think a good part of February doing this, and Marilyn and Constance, Gretchen, Rachel, and Sherry are going to help too, and all of you are going to help, because what are you all doing here? Both here and in a human body and in this life. It's, you know, it's kind of, I don't think you'd be here if you weren't at least a little curious. Go do something else. So the three, those of you who I really enjoyed bringing in other teachers through books, because everybody says it differently, in the same way that each in the same way that each person lives it differently. I mean, I think that's the most amazing thing to me, more and more, is this isn't about like becoming a good something and then you get this stamp of a Zen person. I mean, is Zuki Roshi, who's the founder here of this lineage, the most recent book is entitled Becoming Yourself. is you just become the unique human being that you always have been and probably spent a lot of time avoiding and judging. That if you could just get over being this self, then everything would be fine. And then lo and behold, more and more, you're just landing here, and it's sad and it's funny. And it's just, you can't get out of it anyway, so we just tell each other, be here. And Zen is a particular form of Buddhism, and it does have forms. That's one of the entry gates that some people walk in and say, thank you very much, but I'll see you at Spirit Rock. No, I shouldn't have said that. Sorry. It's just, and one's not better or Tibetan, or one's not better or worse than another. It's just some people just like, it's funny what you think. It's like it becomes, but I just keep saying, some people walk into a Baptist church and it's like it's home. And some people walk into a Lutheran church, and some people walk into Zen, and some people walk into Vipassana, and you don't even, and it doesn't make any sense. And if you're like me, you probably will spend a fair amount of time arguing with yourself and with everything else, but in the end, for some reason, you just keep coming back or not. So the books there are so many good and wonderful books. These we did this some time ago. What is Zen? Plain Talk for a Beginner's Mind, Norman Fisher and Sue Moon. I'm going to use that as a base text. Be calling on that. We haven't used this one before. Norman Fisher, When You Greet Me, I Bow. Notes and Reflections from a Life in Zen. Norman Fisher was my ordination and transmission teacher, a friend and peer at Zen Center, and he took me on, and I'm grateful for that. And there's some great essays in here that were published in Lion's Roar and Tricycle, and it's just a deep dive and flavor of Zen that I know, and that it in the most fundamental way I'm comfortable with. The other one that I wanted to do, which I hadn't read before, but I certainly know her, Zenju Earthling Manuel, who is in our tradition, an African American queer human being practitioner, Dharma era Blanche Hartman, who was the first woman abbess at Zen Center. She wrote this in 2007, so I think it was one of the first books that she wrote. And tell me something about Buddhism, questions and answers for the curious beginner. So I thought it was interesting that she goes in through Buddhism instead of going in through Zen, although it's all mixed up in here. And so that's, and who knows who else will show up, but that's who I have on the menu so far. Okay, so far? So I thought I'd start with what is Zen? Sue Moon. Sue Moon is a friend, a practitioner, a fellow practitioner, an amazing, wonderful human being. Here's some historical background. What we call Buddhism, in quotes, originated with Siddhartha Gautama, who taught in India in about 500 BCE. Over the centuries, the Dharma spread through Asia and east to China, where Chan Buddhism developed, and on to Japan, where Chan became Zen. So Chan is Chinese word for Zen. The Zen Buddhism, she says, Norman and I practiced, came to the United States from Japan. Buddhism changed in each country it came to, as it adapted to a different culture. So too it has changed here in the United States since the 1950s, when Westerners went beyond an intellectual and philosophical interest in Zen and began to take up the practice in earnest. One of the first places that this happened was at the San Francisco Zen Center under the guidance of Shinrin. Perhaps the most important change and one I want to highlight here is regarding the inclusion of women as equal partners in practice.
Mhm.
In the long life of Buddhism, this is very recent history. And I will say, because I think we don't know adequately that in Southeast Asia, women practitioners are, it's changing a little bit and very slowly, but mostly they're second-class citizens. So we're practicing here, the fact that we can practice here together as equals is a kind of rare and precious thing. The first generation of Suzuki Roshi's Dharma heirs were all men. Now there are many women who are teachers, maybe even more than men. She goes on to say, there have been changes in the forms of our practice too, as Zen has adapted to American culture. These tend to be slow evolutionary changes as the animal that is Zen learns to survive in a new habitat. So Zen started in India with Shakyamuni Buddha, and then it spread to Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia and to China. And it kept and Vipassana, you don't need to know any of this, but Theravada is Southeast Asian based, which is Vipassana is based in those roots. It went up to China and became Mahayana, took on a Mahayana flavor, and then went down into Tibet, Mahayana. Vietnam has kind of a mixed tradition and into Japan and then here in the West, we have the amazing good fortune of being able to taste all of these traditions. Of course, the thing in the West is then sometimes you just dabble here and dabble there, and you really do, in my humble view, you have to pick something and follow it through. So something about forms, which we'll do more about. Traditional forms and ceremonies. Some of the chants we do are in medieval Japanese. We do not do that here. We hold the forms lightly here. The robes our priests wear are not particularly practical. We don't do most of that either. We are this is not Zen light, but this is Zen friendly. Not that the other isn't. Why do we still do these things? This is one of the questions we'll take up. Non-harming. How can Zen help us jump right in with whole body and whole mind, right into this place and this time, right into life as it is alive? So it's a good book and we'll follow it. Okay, so Zenju, I want to, Thich Nhat Hanh wrote the introduction to this. You're adequately impressed. No, oh, wow. Okay, so I'm Amy. Christine. New people popping on. So here's a little bit of the forward from Thich Nhat Hanh. Buddhism is like a tree that is constantly growing and adapting to the new lands and cultures it is brought to. I didn't say, Sue said women inclusion, but I think the emotional realm is a really important, the psychological realm is a really important piece that we Westerners are, and as well as the realm of service, which I think springs out of our Judeo-Christian roots. There are few instances in traditional Buddhism, and I could name them, and Thich Nhat Hanh is one of those, where the tradition is engaged in service to the world. Although in general, from my reading, it was often women and nuns who were doing service with adopted children and going out into the world. So that's something that's coming forward more now in our time. For the Buddha's teachings to stay healthy and vibrant, we must constantly renew and update them so they remain relevant and effective for the increasingly diverse communities that practice them. So what is it? If you're we have Buddhism came to America mostly through Thai communities and Sri Lankan communities and through Southeast Asian communities, and they still maintain and continue that way. But there's been very little conscious crossover. It's starting to change between that and what we, I'll say mostly here, white people have been adapting to our own needs and our own ways. It's starting to change a little bit, but it's really important. It's part of why I wanted to do Zenju, is what happens if you're African American and you walk in with a cultural background, or you come from a different socioeconomic or different religious traditions. Is how do we open these gates so that, I mean, for me, so that anybody can come and practice with us, Latino. I mean, I love that I'm doing some of the sanctuary work and people say, "You're Buddhist, can I come sit with you?" I just think, oh, that would be so cool. I mean, and Paul just keep opening the gates. Zen underlies the importance of skillfulness in bringing students to a deeper understanding of awakening. In this little book, with its engaging and accessible question and answer format, Zenju Earthling brings the Buddha's teachings alive in a fresh and powerful voice born from her own fully lived experience of transformation. So I think it's cool. Thich Nhat Hanh gets it, that Zenju is talking about. She was born in Louisiana as a poor person, several generations away from being a slave and in a black skin. And so she's going to describe it slightly differently. And I think it's important for all of us. The secret of transformation is that we take care of this very moment. To promote the work of transformation, we should practice with a Sangha. Good work, everybody. A community in which everyone has the intention to learn and practice. But good intentions are not enough. We need to learn the art of forming a harmonious community which can give people a feeling of confidence. We can all practice as cells in the larger body of our communities, helping others touch peace through their own practice of understanding and compassion. So we ask a simple question: what is Zen and what is Buddhism? And already we're swimming in a big, vast, and wide ocean. Okay, if I go on just a little bit more? Mm-hmm. I love doing call and response. You're going to say yes. Say no. Okay, this is Zenju. Introduction. What is Buddhism? Buddha's teachings came from the ancient dirt of India. And I love that language. It came from the ancient dirt of India. Soil, a continent, a specific place, all the way to my doorstep in contemporary California, USA. Specifically, what brought me to the path of Buddha is the same thing that brings many folks to any spiritual practice: suffering and needing a place to heal. You can ask the question, and maybe I'll ask it of you soon, is what brought you? Does that resonate with you? What are you doing here? What do you think we're doing here? Mm-hmm. I recognize the innate kindness and compassion in the words of Buddha. I recognize the teaching about compassion and wisdom as something I had been yearning to hear. I was dying inside, so to speak, and found vitality in chanting and meditation. And then she says, and then I heard the voice of God, because she was brought up in a very deep Christian fundamental tradition. The love that God represents in the teachings of Buddha, and I was hooked. I was brought up as a Protestant and I spent, still do, but not as much, most of my life being rebellious about everything. But entering this tradition deeply took me back to my Christian roots. Because it's all, once you access something all the way through it, in my experiences, it opens everything else up. Who was Buddha and what did he teach? The word Buddha is Sanskrit, meaning the awakened one. A person who has been released from the world of cyclic existence, samsara, and attained liberation from desire. A Buddha realizes that desire is an indication of one's dissatisfaction. That's an interesting one to sit with. A Buddha realizes that desire is an indication of one's dissatisfaction. Recognizing dissatisfaction can become an open gate to the path of liberation. Buddha experienced such dissatisfaction with life before he began his quest for enlightenment. So I think we all sort of know the story of the Buddha was raised in safety and wealth and the child of king and wandered out. I think snuck out, as most of us will do, or maybe did do in one way or another, snuck out of the life that was prescribed for us, and lo and behold, saw many wondrous things, and also saw sickness, aging, and death. And I am constantly amazed that the Buddha, to become the Buddha, when he experienced those things, it shook him all the way through. Now, maybe you have experienced these things, and it shakes me a little, and then I go and distract myself, or, I mean, it's not bad, that's just what we do, but the Buddha was so primed to really want to understand that once he knew, he couldn't forget, and I really believe we can't either, which is the source of the Four Noble Truths. I came to Buddhism fundamentally because, many reasons, but one of them is the first noble truth is there is suffering. I was so happy that somebody finally said there was suffering, because children know. We know. No matter how many times my parents, who were both born of their particular trauma and were trying really hard to make everything okay. I mean, of course they were, because I always knew it wasn't okay. I'm talking about me, but there is suffering. There's a cause of suffering. There is cessation from suffering, and there's a path leading to the end of suffering called the Eightfold Path. Fundamental Buddhism. In Zen, my experience is, in my teaching and training at San Francisco Zen Center, and is we used to, I don't know, this is my perception, is we used to think that was beginning Buddhism, and now we were doing this more advanced Zen more refined Zen practice, and after 50 years, it was like it occurred to me, wait a minute. I think these roots, they go through every tradition, and they're just fundamental, and Zen is just one form of it. Many say that Buddhists talk about suffering more than they do about joy and love. That there is a certain critique that Zen people can look pretty serious. Sorry. Yes. Used to really scare me. But I still am I'm a very serious person, but it can look really. This may, sorry, we're just jumping in here. This may have some truth, because Buddha's first message to the world was about suffering. He did not say, if you do this, you will have joy. He simply spoke to the human condition of suffering that he witnessed for himself, in the hopes that we would find happiness in understanding suffering. He offered no guarantees or promises about what would happen when one practices these teachings. The joy comes from the individual's dedication to the path and the deepening of one's relationship with other living beings, including four-legged, winged ones, trees, plants, and living beings we have yet to meet. It's a joyful path, but it happens because you stay with it all the way through. It opens and opens and opens, and just as true of any tradition. You follow it all. It's the same. You follow it all the way through, just different language and entry points. Liberation is joy. It is a joy grounded in dedication and devotion to a path of awakening. There is joy in asking, how can I be loving to my family, to my friends, to my Dharma sisters and brothers? There is joy in saying, I am present for you to all those I love, and I cannot have that joy or love until we understand suffering. And of course, the step beyond that is, how do we be alive and loving and caring to this crazy, beautiful world and everything that is coming at us all the time? Okay. Do a couple more things because I like this. I hope you do too. What do Buddhists believe? What do you have to sign up for? There'll be a form there. Put it in. Buddha taught to avoid becoming attached to beliefs, to not grasp onto what we think, because what we think can cause great illusions and unbearable isolation. Instead of believing, what I practice is seeing, but not with my eyes. When I see with my heart, that which is around me, wisdom and awareness surface, rather than a fixation with what my mind believes in regard to what I see. I think that's what Zazen is. We practice cultivating this alive, breathing, heartbeat, intuitive body. What is being Buddha or being on Buddha's path? Being Buddha, in my words, Senju's words, is to be the teachings. To follow the teachings of Buddha is to walk on Buddha's path, but also to come to your own revelations as Buddha did. You may also hear the words Buddha's way used for what I am calling the path. It is important to say that there are few, if any, on this earth that have the capacity to completely follow all of the teachings of Buddha. One of the great things we did in this retreat, and Mark Lesser, who was one of the co-facilitators, is he had us all doing it. Is I can't remember how it came up, but something would happen and we'd all go, I failed. It's so liberating. If somebody does something dumb, and instead of like getting really quiet and serious, we would all just go, I failed, and then we'd laugh. You might want to try that. Amen. Often people expect Buddhists to be loving and kind because of the teachings. However, all people are constantly faced with human conditioning in various degrees every moment. The suffering we have endured throughout our lives obstructs our actions. For this reason, we work towards mindfulness, compassion for our not being upright at all times, and wisdom to begin again and again when life is interrupted with our own blindness. Okay, I just realized I failed. I was looking at the clock thinking, we have so much time. We're going to have all this time to talk, and then I realized we still need to do service. I failed. But I didn't totally fail because we have a few minutes here. So there was one more thing, but I'll read it some other time. So my question is, and maybe we'll just do groups of two. Just turn to somebody next to you. So what is this? What is this? What is Zen? What is Buddhism? What are you doing here? You have 2 minutes to And you know, just talk to somebody and just talk to each other about any of this, all of this. What do you think you're doing? And what do you think? This is-